All right, good morning all. My name is Harry Ma. I'm one of the senior investment managers here at Sharewise. This morning we are joined by CEO Alistair Stephens of Resouro Strategic Metals. Good morning, Alistair. Thanks for coming on board today.
Good morning, Harry. Thank you.
Of course. Now, for all those attendees that haven't watched the webinar before, it will be recorded and it will be put on our Sharewise YouTube channel. So if you can't make the entire viewing, it'll be accessible there. And of course, we invite any Q&A questions to be put through the Q&A box below. So Alistair, we'll start off. If you want to just give our attendees a bit of an overview on RAU, on Resouro Strategic Metals, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Resouro Strategic Metals is a Canadian registered company listed both on the TSXV and the ASX. It's got about 100 million shares on issue, so it's very tightly held stock between both exchanges, and it has a fantastic and definitely a remarkably interesting and massive resource of titanium and rare earths over in Brazil.
In Brazil, there you go. And you said the Minas Gerais, which is one of your key locations, is Portuguese for general mining. Now, what is that like to work in from a mining perspective?
Well, I guess that says it all. When it was first settled all those centuries ago, it was generally known as a great district to go mining. And there it is today, still one of the best states in Brazil, and certainly the best states in the world to be involved in mining. It's got a great long history of mining culture. So the government's very focused on the opportunities that mining brings, both the local communities, the state and the federal government. So it has a particularly good mining law. It's very friendly, and that's why there's a lot of focus of organisations in that area for mining potential. Okay,
fantastic. Now, do you want to tell us a bit about the MRE resource, a bit about the background, the prospectivity and work programs as well?
Our initial resource was published in around about July last year. We've done an update in April this year. The total resource is 1.9 billion tonnes, broken down into 1.4 billion tonnes of measured and indicated, plus another 500 million tonnes of inferred resources. The average grade is 12% titanium dioxide and 3,700 ppm in the inferred category and 4,000 ppm TREO in the measured and indicated category. The important subset within that resource is 136 million tonnes at 22 to 23% TiO2 and 8,300 to 9,100 ppm TREO, depending on the category, whether you're looking at measured or indicated or the inferred resource. Interesting, the measured indicated resource is a higher grade in rare earths. So we expect with some more drilling, if we were to do it, you'd probably upgrade that inferred high-grade resource into something of higher grade. The interesting aspect of this, in terms of value, is that the average content of what's called the MEREO projects elements, the neodymium, praseodymium, terbium, dysprosium, average around about 26%. Of the total rare earths. So it's quite elevated and high in the more valuable components of rare earths. Okay. Now, this resource is just in an area we call the central block. We've got other tenements to the north and other tenements to the south. I think really we've hit the tip of the iceberg with this potential, and there is absolutely enormous potential to extend this resource a lot further had we the desire to do it, which we don't, because we're focusing on metallurgy.
Okay, yeah, interesting. And tell us about the current developments in rare earths. Obviously, it's the flavour of the month in recent times as well. What are the current developments in that space for you guys more specifically?
I've been in rare earths over 20 years now, and as everyone will know, China dominates the market, and the pricing that comes out of China is basically poorly has grey areas around its transparency of the supply and demand matrix. It's more of a command economy pricing, which doesn't supply you coming out of China. And what we've seen recently is a breakout from that by the investment of the US government NP Materials and guaranteeing a price of $110 per kilo of NdPr, whereas the price of it is somewhere around $60 a kilo out of China. that tells you that it's important and that organisations are willing to pay more to actually ensure local supply. So this is also not only price, but it's a signal to a supply chain diversity, which will propagate through the rest of the industry.
Yeah. Okay. And now shifting to the titanium market, what can you tell us about the titanium market?
Titanium, just to give you a background, titanium, because not a lot of people know about it. Its catchphrase is strong, white, and bright. So when it's used as a metal, it produces a particularly high strength and lightweight metal. So it's particularly good in high temperature or high corrosion environments. So it has particularly good uses within specialty areas. It's also very hard, so it's used as a hardening agent. And then there'll be people around the globe that have got titanium hips because it has biocompatibility with the human immune system. Mm-hmm. So that's the metal market. The other one, bright and white, it's basically a pigment used in plastics, paints, or paper to make the white colour. And that market is very much tied to domestic growth. So when you get high growth in housing market, or you get a lot of use for paints, therefore the titanium market is drawn to general gross domestic product type activities. The advantage where we talked about rare earths being not very transparent and being quite grey in its supply and demand and pricing mechanisms, titanium is exactly the opposite. It's a very open, very transparent market, many players within it, clearly demand and supply relationships, and pricing which is open. And that makes this project particularly advantage from my perspective, in that this then becomes a traditional funding proposal down the track when we're ready to actually fund it, because people can see the transparency of the titanium market. You can do a contract or an offtake agreement, which is very transparent, and therefore you can have rare earths swing off the back end of it. And that's our competitive advantage.
Yeah, okay. I was going to ask, what do you think distinguishes Resouro's mineral resource estimate from others in the region? Are there specific geological features or grade profiles that stand out more specifically? Or what do you think your competitive advantage is compared to others around you?
Well, it's exactly that. The combination of both titanium mineralization as well as rare earths. What is interesting in that sometimes when you get mixed minerals, you get conflicting chemistries when you get to processing. Anatase and rare earths actually don't have any conflicts. They're sort of separated from their processing techniques, so you won't lose one at the cost of another. So that competitive advantage is what we have, focusing on how we develop the titanium project, how we let rare earths swing off the back of it for additional value. Okay.
Yep. Now, can you outline any unique or innovative exploration or testing techniques that you're currently applying that may also give you a competitive edge as well?
Well, there's very little innovation whatsoever. In fact, this is a very odd host, in that the host has been completely weathered and it's been obliterated from its original texture into just a clay weathered friable material overlain with another sequence of clay. So where we've been able to get auger drilling is limited by its depth, but where we've been able to actually have shallow mineralization, we've used augers, we've used air core, and we've used RC and diamond drilling in other places. It's very soft. You don't need much technology whatsoever to actually drill this material. There's nothing innovative about that.
Right.
So it's a particularly easy resource to drill. I would expect when you get to mining, it'll be no drill and blast in this operation. It's just all free diggable material. And the comminution circuit that goes into the processing plant will be very rudimentary and low cost. So there's the initial advantages of this material. It's very exposed at the surface and it's very soft and friable.
Okay. And when you said get to mining, when can investors expect to shift from exploration towards development or feasibility level work?
Well, that's what we're doing right now. In that PowerPoint presentation we published on the exchange this morning, We put a timeline of events there for metallurgical test work programs, focusing on beneficiation tech work by gravity techniques, and another one by flotation, stepping through into leaching studies for the extraction and recoveries of both the titanium and rare earth materials, targeting high purity and therefore the high value markets. We would anticipate that work will be done by the end of the year, leading to a scoping study. Now, if I can bring it in a little bit earlier at some point in time. Sorry, excuse me, I forgot to put my phone on, on mute. If I can bring forward that, I'd like to. We'll certainly attempt to do that, but I'm certainly confident that in the first quarter of next year, we'll be able to publish a scoping study. We'll roll then further into other test work and engineering and pilot plant studies, such that we hope to have a PFS, potentially a DFS maybe by the end of next year, looking at then a demonstration plant in the following year.
Perfect. Okay. Now, I did have a question from a registrant prior to the webinar, and it's regarding your financial position. Now, how much cash is currently, how much cash do you guys have in the bank at the moment on hand?
We have around about $750,000 Canadian in the bank. So we're reasonably well funded at this point in time for what we've got in our current development programs.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Now, as CEO, Alistair, what's something that gets you out of bed in the morning? What is the most exciting part about this business that you think will, deliver shareholder value going forward?
I guess we've gone through a couple of exercises on experimentation with alternative technology, and that kind of that phase has passed us now. We're back now into a very much a structured engineering and metallurgical test work program, and that excites me. I love the engineering and the metallurgical part of projects. That is going to be a really significant milestone for this organisation. The resource is fantastic. We know it's big, but now this test work program is about establishing the foundations for valuation, and that valuation is going to come towards the end of this year or early next year, and that's a really exciting part of this project.
Perfect. Fantastic. Now, I've got to ask, I'm sure you're more familiar than myself and the attendees today, but with the location of the project in Minas Gerais, can you provide a sense of where exactly the project is located and its proximity to, say, roads, ports, and infrastructure, and how that might support the development timeline as well?
Okay, so it's in Minas Gerais in Brazil.
Yep.
The office that we have is a town called Belo Horizonte. The project's around about 300 kilometres to the west of Belo Horizonte, down along the main highway, and then you travel about 75 kilometres north to two towns. One's called Tiros, where the project gets its name from, which was an old diamond mining community. That's why Tiros was established, alluvial diamonds. And another one to the south called São Gotardo, which is another name for one of our project areas. And São Gotardo's got about 40,000 people. It's a very well established with airports and high-rise buildings and things like that. This project, I say, is a bit like having Kalgoorlie beside the super pit. We've got some fantastic domestic infrastructure associated with a very great large project. There's highways, there's power lines. Further south, there's a rail line that can export material to the port, which is 600 kilometres to the east. So there is some fantastic infrastructure here. It's not remote by any stretch of the imagination. So it's there for advantages that it'll have easy access to important infrastructure of power, which is about 4.5 cents a kilowatt hour in Brazil at the moment. And it's all hydropower. So there's another aspect of lowering your environmental footprint by access to hydroelectric power sources, as well as all this other infrastructure. And there's plenty of water as well.
Perfect. Fantastic. Well, look, that's all my questions. We'll give our attendees a bit of time to put through some Q&As, but I must say it does sound very exciting. It sounds like towards the end of the year we should have some results and yes, some further growth for the business. Thank you for coming on this morning. I'll see if there's any questions come through towards the end here, but excuse me, Alistair, thanks for your time. And yeah, well, it sounds like towards the end of the year, we'll have to have another webinar, another catch up and see how it's all tracking.
Fantastic.
Perfect. Well, I think
We'll have some results by then too. So
yeah,
in that presentation, our interest, there's a line down the bottom of our Gantt chart that says this is when we anticipate would have results coming to the market.
Great.
So by the time we come back to the next webinar, I'll definitely have some results.
Perfect. Well, I look forward to it. Well, thank you for your time, and yeah, we'll look forward to having you back on.
Thanks, Harry.
Thanks, Alistair.
Bye-bye.